Behold, my favorite weeknight meal. Pan-roasted Cornish hen with bacon bits and pearl onions. You know, back when my dad started cooking this for me when I was a kid, it must have seemed fairly exotic. After all, the Cornish hen as we know it didn't even exist until 1965 when Donald John Tyson crossed a rock hen and a Cornish chicken, a breed originally from Cornwall in England. Of course, now they seem commonplace. You know, the same can be said of foodborne illnesses. I mean, just 25 years ago, many of the critters that plague us, like Salmonella E. coli and Campylobacter jejuni, simply did not exist in their current strains. And so today, in the age of mechanization, globalization, and emerging pathogens, the home cook is faced with two seemingly daunting tasks: make it tasty and keep it safe. How do I do it? Well, the tasty part eludes me from time to time, but the safety part I think I've got down through a system that I call the 4 C's. Stick around for the next half hour and you will discover that safer meals are easily within your reach, and that pan-roasted Cornish hen with bacon bits and pearl onions is definitely most foodborne illnesses happen when bacteria, viruses, parasites, and toxins, not to mention other microbial beasties, use our food to get into us. They can, however, be stymied by judicious application of the 4 C's. Contain, clean, cook, and chill. Simple concepts all. The trick is to apply them strategically across every phase of meal construction, beginning with the market. Now, assuming that your market has good purchasing and handling practices of their own, it is your job to maintain the containment and chilling that they have no doubt worked hard to establish. Now, here is a map of a standard megamart. These aisles contain cans, boxes, and dried goods that are not temperature sensitive, so we'll hit those first. Then we'll work what's called the ring, where most markets display their produce, dairy and eggs, meat, and seafood, which just so happens to be the order we will follow. Finally, on the way to the register, we will move through the frozen food corridor. Of course, if your market has a different design, you can ask the manager for a floor diagram so that you can determine the safest route of acquisition. Having procured our dry goods, our produce, and even our cured packaged meat products, i.e. bacon, we are now ready to hunt down our fresh meat, so to speak. I am after a Cornish or rock game hen, which is defined by the federal government as an immature chicken, generally 5 to 6 weeks of age, weighing not more than 2 pounds, ready to cook weight, which was prepared from a Cornish chicken or the progeny of a Cornish chicken crossed with another breed of chicken. Would you stop that? No matter how small it is, it's still a chicken, and it's safe to assume our old nemesis, Salmonella, or perhaps the emerging pathogen, Campylobacter jejuni, will be present, which is why markets must be careful to clean, contain, and chill. Now, the clean part, well, that's pretty easy to tell. Just look around. If the case is dirty, then you can only imagine what might be going on back there where you can't see. This looks good. Containment is pretty much about packaging. Whether they are bags from the factory or rewraps in the store, they should feature tight seals, no juice leaking out. As for chilling, well, whether they're on ice or in an open case like this, you want the surface of each bird to be at or below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which of course is the temperature above which bacteria can go crazy and get frisky. Now, if you're really paranoid like me, you'll dig deep up into the back of the case where the coldest specimens await. This looks good. Containment continues in your cart. I always place raw fish, poultry, and meats in the very bottom where most people stash their cat food. I don't want to take any chances of cross-contamination. Yes, cross-contamination is scary, but proper containment practices will greatly reduce the likelihood of nasties migrating out of the meat and, taking up residence in your greens. The freezer case is always my last stop. Here, if you want to see a temperature well below 0, it's in below. Very nice. Packages that show no signs of damage and foods that show no signs of having been thawed and then refrozen. Big chunky ice crystals are always a bad sign, especially in IQF or individual quick frozen products like these onions. These are good. Whenever I go on a big grocery binge, I always bring along a cooler loaded up with cold packs to keep things nice and chilly. The raw meats bagged, of course, should go on the bottom, and the produce up on top. There, everybody's happy and safe. When you get home, remember, cross-contamination can happen in your refrigerator as easily as anywhere else. So careful containment is especially important in here. All raw meat should go in the very, very, very bottom level. If that means a drawer, even better. Foods to be served raw can go up above that, and containers of cooked foods and leftovers and whatnot should go above that at the very top. You're not the lady of the refrigerator?
Stunning observation. I'm the refrigerator gnome.
Refrigerator gnome?
Yes, and I'm here to make my annual inspection.
Refrigerator gnome?
Is there an echo in here? Are you simple?
Simple?
Where's your refrigerator thermometer?
Right here.
Good grief, man. It's 41 degrees in here and I'm roasting.
What? 41? Oh.
Haven't you ever heard of the danger zone?
Of course I've heard of the danger zone. Hey, I'm the guy who teaches other people about the danger zone.
Oh,
hey,
never mind.
Where'd you go? Where'd that little creep go? Hey!
All your bacteria can live in a wide range of temperatures. They grow and reproduce rapidly between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which is why you should always keep your refrigerator set between 35 and 38 degrees and your freezer below 0. You gonna inspect that one too?
Different gnome. When's the last time you cleaned your refrigerator coils? There's no time for meditating. The coils are on the back of many refrigerators, but on some side-by-sides, they're behind the kick plate at the bottom. Where are yours? They're on the top, of course. So take a bottle brush to them or vacuum them off, you simpleton. Cheerio, moron.
Well, you little creep. Come back here. Come here. Riddle me this, kids. What's the first step to any cooking process? I'll give you a hint. It isn't cooking. Ask the CDC, the WHO, the FDA, the USDA, the FBI, the CIA, the PTA, or the 4-H Club, and they'll tell you that good food safety starts with proper hand washing, which can remove dirt, dead skin cells, oils, and whatnot that microbial beasties thrive on. So plenty of soap and plenty of warm water. Above all, you need to take your time, okay? Count to 30. Nice and slowly before rinsing. By the way, research has shown that antibacterial soaps are no better than the regular old-fashioned kind when it comes to getting your mitts good and clean. They may actually help bacteria develop resistances to antibacterial drugs. Now, rinsing, and notice using my arm to turn the water off just in case that is dirty. When it comes to drying, although I admit to keeping around this attractive fez monkey hand towel, it's just for ornamentation. Real drying, usually done with single-use paper towels, just to keep everything nice and clean. Now, it is time to cook. This dish is pan roasted, and there's no better vessel for pan roasting than cast iron. We're going to put that over medium heat and bring on 4 rashers of bacon. Now, ordinarily, we would cook this in strips, but we need it in wee little pieces or lardons, so I see no reason not to snip them directly into the pan. It'll make the task a lot easier. Now, before we turn our attention to the birds, we must turn our attention to the oven by turning it to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. You're going to want to go ahead and put a rack somewhere near the middle. Oh, and you're also going to want to wrap a brick in aluminum foil and place it in here to get hot. Well, just trust me on this. Now, the battlefield on which many a war on cross-contamination is lost is the cutting board phase. And I get around this by having at least 2 in my household. Here I have a wooden board, which I use for vegetables and any other food which can be consumed raw. It is very fast. Knives like working on wood. For all raw proteins, meats that is, I use a food-grade plastic board. No, it is not as fast as wood, but for butchery, it doesn't need to be. The other great benefits, it is cheap, and it can go in the dishwasher. Now we have our little station set up. I like to cut next to the sink. We have our board. I have donned latex gloves, which I like to handle poultry with, have our boning knife, and our shears standing by. Now the goal is to get this bird as flat as possible so that it will cook as quickly as possible. The procedure that we will use is called spatchcocking, and supposedly that's an old English term, comes from dispatch the cock or kill the chicken, which doesn't sound as good as spatchcock. First step is this backbone. It's got to go. Best tool for the job? Kitchen shears or even just stout scissors will do the trick. So grab hold of the back and just slide in the blade and snip up. And then up the other side. There. Just show a little backbone, will you? Now, with that is out, we can gain access to the keel bone, which needs to come out. That's the bone that, it's the sternum, essentially, but it's got a membrane over it. So slice that open, and then kind of push, kind of like breaking the binding on a book. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Then you get your fingers under and kind of just lever it out, and you'll have yourself a perfectly intact keel bone, which is pretty much worthless. Now, time to deal with the legs. Flip this guy back over, take your boning knife and make a slit in this skin right here off the back end. Now reach in and push the drumstick through. There, and repeat that on the other side. Make a nice tidy little package. There. And now we've got a nice flat bird. Now I like to kind of tuck it down like that, give it a push to flatten, and there we have it. Next patient. By now we have rendered out all of the fat that this bacon has to give, or almost, and since we want the bacon separate from the fat, we're going to go ahead and strain off the whole kit and caboodle and get all the bacon out of here. Get in there. There. Now, we will return 1 tablespoon of that fat to the pan for the hens, which, by the way, have been liberally seasoned with salt and pepper. Now, the arrangement is thus. They go skin down, and we're going to arrange them face to face. Well, they don't have faces anymore, but where their faces used to be. And it's going to look like a very tight fit, but it isn't as bad as you think. Kind of squeeze them in there. And then the onions. We've got 20 to 24 of them, and I want them in direct heat so they caramelize. So I'm going to kind of dose them around. And we got room in there for one, and hey, you get one too. There. Now the last ingredient, more heat in the form of our little ceramic friend in the oven here. So we'll get him out. Hot. There we go. Now this is going to go right down on top, but we're going to try to evenly space it so that the pressure and heat is even. There. Now we will leave that in place until it develops a good sear. Say about 5 minutes. Whenever I'm handling raw meat, I like to clean up as soon as possible. If you don't, any new food to hit the counter, or tool for that matter, will be even more in danger of... Of course, clean is good, which is why it is one of the 4 C's. And soap or detergent, water, and scrubbing device will go a long way towards removing the visible soil that we beasties cling to. But sanitizing, well, that's something else altogether. According to the EPA, to sanitize means to... sanitize, to reduce bacterial presence by 99.9%. Of course, sanitize is not the same thing as sterilize, which means... sterilize is to reduce bacterial presence by 99.999%. That is a 3 logarithmic reduction. Which wouldn't sound practical to me, even if I understood what he just said. Now, sanitizing is easy, and odds are you've probably got everything you need already in your kitchen. Sodium hypochlorite, the active ingredient in modern bleach, is a very, very powerful oxidizing agent, which is capable of just kind of blowing up the cell walls of bacteria and even some viruses. And it's very, very potent stuff. Just a 1/4 teaspoon mixed into a cup of water, that's a tablespoon per gallon, would be enough to do away with most kitchen nasties. Kind of like that. Sorry. Anyway, I mix up my sanitizer and keep it in a spritzer bottle like this, not only for ease of application, but because keeping it contained will make it last longer. This will remain potent for up to a week. If you were to put it just in an open container, you'd have to replace it every single day. Now, to use it, just spritz on any clean, non-porous surface and just let it dry. No buffing necessary. Now, let's get back to those hens, shall we? What begins in the cooktop finishes in the oven. Now, obviously, a non-stick finish should not be used in here. So if you don't have cast iron, and you really should, you'll have to use heavy steel. Now, we're going to leave this in for, say, 10 to 15 minutes or until the thigh meat hits 170 degrees. Look up the word cook in the dictionary, and it says to prepare food for eating by applying heat. Now, in light of this revelation, would it not be reasonable to assume that one of the cook's most powerful tools would be the thermometer? Now, here are a few of mine. It's my travel kit, so to speak. I'd love to take you on a long, loving tour of each and every one, but our time is limited. So we will concern ourselves only with instant read thermometers with digital readouts that are not meant to be left in the food during cooking. Now, there are two basic styles that you should be familiar with. The first uses a device called a thermistor. Now, if you were to look inside the probe, you would see a ceramic semiconductor bonded into the tip with temperature-sensitive epoxy. This type of thermometer is very stout, robust, it's relatively accurate, and extremely inexpensive. The downside is, well, since the thermistor itself is relatively bulky, the probes are wide. It can leave gaping wounds in your food. Also, the thermistor itself is usually at least 1/3 of an inch up from the tip, making it not so good for temping shallow foods like, say, a fish fillet. Not so thermocouples, the second variety, which relies on a voltage differential created by heat between two fine wires in the very, very tip of the probe. Now, thermocouples are extremely fast and extraordinarily accurate. Although they are generally a little bit more expensive than thermistor models, thermocoupler thermometers have some distinct advantages, especially for a dish like this. One, they can often be fitted with a long cable so that you can take readings while keeping your head safely out of the oven. The other thing is that they can make very, very narrow probes, which is good because it means that multiple readings will not leave your food looking like it has been riddled by machine gun fire. And this is good to go. Obviously, careful extraction is a must. Remove the brick, turn out a bird, and liberally apply both the onions and the crispy pork product. What a dinner! And gosh darn it, since we made it applying the 4 C's, we know that it's a meal that will not come back to bite us. What? You think that's, what, a little too simple? You want to kind of kick it up a notch? Okay, we can do that. Place a small saucepan over medium-high heat and add 1/3 of a cup of vegetable oil. When it just starts to ripple, add 1 teaspoon of whole fennel seeds, a teaspoon of whole cumin seeds, and a whole teaspoon of coriander seeds. When that heats up a bit, you can add 1/2 teaspoon of mustard seed, and last but not least, 1/2 teaspoon of ground paprika for color as much as flavor. When the seeds just start to pop, kill the heat and allow the mixture to cool for at least 5 minutes before adding to the carafe of your friendly neighborhood blender, along with 1/3 of a cup of slivered almonds and a teaspoon of kosher salt. Put on the lid and pulse until a smooth puree is formed. Then lay out your hens in a baking dish and basically just massage in the goodness. You could do this up to 8 hours ahead, by the way. Welcome to the Great American Grill Site, home of family fun, fine food, and unfortunately, foodborne illness. What's the problem? Well, I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem? Men. That's right, it's us. Inside, sure, we can be all civilized and clean, but you get us out here in all this fresh air and we revert to the dirty little primates that we are. But that's all over now because the 4 C's have come to town. Let's start with cleaning. American men, we're pretty bad about keeping our grills filthy, and that is only going to invite bacteria and whatnot to the party. So a good polishing. Also, we need one area for our raw goods and another area for our cooked goods. Double up on the tools, both raw and cooked. Down below, I like containment. Not only an empty trash can, but some sanitizer and a cooler to keep my hens chilled. Now, Last but not least, we will require a thermometer to know when the cooking has been properly done. Now, fire your grill according to your manufacturer's instructions and add the foil-wrapped brick once again so that they can heat together. You'll want to put your raw birds on the left-hand side, the raw side, and your clean platter on the right side, keeping them apart. When the grill hits 500 degrees, you will want to move the brick aside and lay down the birds, just as we did in the pan, face to face, brick on top, lid down, and cook for 10 minutes. Then, carefully remove the brick and roll the birds over thusly. There, you can still use the raw tongs at this point. Replace the brick and cook for 8 to 10 minutes. At that point, you should be able to register about 170 degrees on the thighs, which is exactly what we're looking for. Remove the birds to your clean platter using the clean tongs and rest 5 minutes before serving. Spicy hen coupled with a cooling coleslaw may just become my new favorite weeknight meal. Well, I hope that we've instilled in you a healthy respect for the power of the roasted hen and the 4 C's. Contain, clean, cook, and chill. Look to utilize these tools at every opportunity, and your meals will be safe eats as well as good eats. See you next time.